Hey everyone, it's TJ. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to jump into Subby devlog number 7. It's been since January 27th, 2023. Yes, I looked. It's driving me crazy that it's been this long. But we're going to jump into the next devlog. I've got some cool updates to show you, and we're going to jump into it. First couple things I wanted to mention here is I'm now running Unity on Linux. For those of you who didn't see my Linux update video, things are a little bit different in terms of what the user interface looks like and how I'm running things, but overall things are gonna work the same. It's just different operating system. What's changed since the last time that we were actually in a devlog? The big thing here is I got the music working. My buddy Ryan made some really cool tracks that we set up to basically start off at a certain depth, and then as you go deeper underwater, the two tracks blend until they hit a point where they both match up, and then the first track fades out at the same rate that the next track fades all the way to the max, and then the third track will do the same thing. And it's now written and working to do that properly with n number of tracks. This was something that I was planning on doing the last devlog for, ran into a serious issue, and then just family problems and nonsense. That's why there hasn't been a devlog. Here we are now. That's going to be one of the big things that I show off today. I also got some of the shop stuff working, and let's see what else we got. So, dragging over the actual GitLab page here for all the commits. So as we can see here, if we go back to say February 4th, I got started the music on February 7th. We got the Android build working. We got the scriptable objects for the shops. There's some art that I added in for the shop items. I've done some moving things around for the controllers. So this isn't like a game controller, but the controllers for like the shop and the sub and like the core systems. Looks like I changed some build settings around. I mean, this was over a year ago at this point. So we have that. We changed spacing on the shop items. These were updating the submodule pointers, getting the audio controller to work right, updating pointers, updating get ignores. This was leaving on travel for a funeral, so it was getting things set up for that. Added in the branding submodule, so all of my branding can be included in the app and make sure things are working right there. These were updating to a newer LTS version of Unity. This was going to Maryland a while ago. Finally fixing the audio issue. So the issue that I was having in February, I finally fixed on October 23rd. On March 17th, I had a power outage and did some game dev on my laptop. April 8th, looks like updated the Unity version and got the audio cycling a little more fleshed out and working right. Let's see what else. Fixed loading of save files, just cleaning up code, and then I believe these were from the last time I went out to Maryland to see a buddy of mine. I was doing just game dev on the plane. And the way I do that on my laptop is just kick it into the terminal only mode. I believe you hit Control Alt and then I want to say F3 or F4. And you can jump to a terminal only, and it ups the battery life of the laptop significantly. So if you don't need to worry about having an IDE to code, you can get a lot more battery life out of your laptop just by doing that. If you're running Linux, that is. So that's kind of the overall commit changes that have been done since the last time we looked at this. So jumping into Unity, let's see what we got here. So hit play. This is going to take a little bit of time, but as you can see, not much has really changed in terms of graphics here. But what we're going to do first is, as soon as this loads, we should hear the music start playing.
A few moments later.
Still waiting.
3 weeks later.
Alright. So as you can see, we've got this cool kind of ambience to the music. And if we... Oh, we can move around in the shop. That's a problem. Okay. So if we move down, you can hear the music has kind of changed. But there's that underlying tone of that first track. So if we come back up here, it's still there. So if we keep going back down, now we're getting into a deeper track that just, it almost feels darker. So this is kind of the music and the feel that I've been going for on this. So we can go through and collect some stuff. As you can see, there's a little bit of a jump whenever we collect life. So I need to look into that and why that's happening. But if we go to sell stuff, this is all working. So we can sell, hit exit, come back over here, and here's the actual store. So I'm going to kill the music just to be able to talk over it here. So we have our different holes, different cargo bays, fuel tanks, engines, and shields. So I just kind of threw random names on them, kind of in the same vein as Motherload, where you have the standard hull, a better hull, an ultra hull, monster hull, dragon hull, hydra hull, and then the ultimate hull. And all of these kind of follow the same naming scheme and the colors. So anything orange is the Hydra, so we can click on engine and we have the Hydra engine, and the ultimate engine. Same with shields. So the way I set these up is they're all scriptable objects that are all being loaded in. If we go to, let's see, if we stop this and then go to the part shop, we can see down here on the side, we have the available cargo, available engines, the available fuel tanks, hulls, and shields. As I add more of these, all I have to do is hit a plus and then drop them in. And that's all I have to do. And then if I want to remove them, I can just hit the minus there. And the UI will just dynamically load these in based on the data from the scriptable objects right here. So with the fuel tank, for example, because that was the one I was editing, max fuel for the Hydra tank is 20 at the moment. I haven't really gone through to play with these too much, but looks like they are all 20, so that's fun. So what we'll do is, once we get to the point where we need to start tuning the game and optimizing stuff for better gameplay, we're going to be changing the way some of these, or some of the values are set, and go from there. Now, in terms of the audio, this is some fun stuff that I really wanted to show and how it worked. So what I did was, we have 3 tracks right now, and they're all on the audio controller object here. And I made an audio controller script, and I have the main menu music, the shop music, and these are all just kind of placeholder sound effects and music. And then we have the game music, which is this array right here. So as the game is playing, we take the game music and then figure out, like, if we know we're at a certain depth, which is set here. So we set the max depth threshold. Right now I have it only set to 100. So when the depth reaches 100, it should just be playing the last track. and the last track only until you reach the bottom. But what I'm doing is I'm splitting the max depth up by how many elements are in the array. So you get a nice even spread for every set of depths. So because we're only doing 3 of them, it's about 33 and a third for each track to fully play through itself. As we go through and look at the code here, this is kind of how things are set up. And then what we're doing is we're changing the volume based on I believe it's a cosine wave. So let's jump over to the code. Alright, so in VS Code, this is how I've got everything set up with the Subby audio controller. So we have all of the serialized fields, everything's private, so it's kind of this nice contained little box. And then I have a flag for testing, just made it easier to flip this if I wanted to get the audio playing in at a different rate. But when we go down here, we're creating this threshold step size. So when we start or we change the max depth threshold, we're creating this threshold step size. And that looks like this. So we're just taking, if we don't have any music, we're just setting it to 1,000 and returning. But it's, like I was saying, it's the max depth divided by how many tracks there are within that array. And then when we first start, what we're doing is we're setting the playing tracks, and then this is just making sure only 2 tracks are playing at a time and keeping track of the state of the audio. But the part that really gave me some problems last time I went to mess with this was this update track volume. As you can see, there's a little bit of trig down here, and this is where I think trig is the most useful math, especially for game dev. If you need to change things at the same rate, you can either use cosine and sine, or you can do 2 cosines and then offset your period. So you have one wave that's kind of going like this, and then another wave that goes halfway in between, or a quarter step of the way. And that's kind of how this works. But what we're doing is, if we're deeper than the max threshold, we're just going to set the last track to be the max volume, and then we're breaking out of this. So it's an early exit, and that way we don't have to nest this thing super deep. We can just say, yeah, we're handling this edge case, get out of here. And then what we're doing is we're looping over how many tracks are playing, and then getting the periods set up correctly. And then here's the function that we're using for this. From there, we're just running it through a cosine equation and generating the volume from this. And that's really all it is. It's a little tricky to get working, but once you get it, it makes sense. So that's it for the audio stuff. It's just that. Let's see what else we got. We have the sub upgrade shop. So here's the code for the sub upgrade shop. We have the panels. This is kind of the description side, and then we have which items we're picking. So this is using a little bit of polymorphism because all of these right here are derived from our scriptable object base class. All we have to do if we want to display something is store it in this selected item. It can be any of these. So it's treating like the cargo as its base object. So we can pull the properties out of the base object, and if we need to specifically pull information out that's specific to the cargo, we'd have to use either a cast or something along those terms to make sure we're using the right object type to get the properties on it. Otherwise, if we just kind of, let's see, where's peak? Where is peak definite? Oh, it's not gonna let me peek it. Okay. Well, let's actually just go to it. So the base scriptable object just has weight, a monetary value, name, description, and a sprite. So this is everything we need for the shop to show what the object you're buying is. And then if we go here and actually look at the cargo, the only thing that's different is this has a max cargo weight. So it has everything from here. So it has the weight, monetary value, etc. And then we're just adding on a max cargo weight to it. So you're kind of specifying in on what an object is for object-oriented programming. So going back, let's see here. There we go. Make sure that stays open. So we're stocking the shop. Obviously, I've got some to-dos in here and some comments to say make sure this is a little more dynamic. But all we're doing is, if we want to show the hulls or the cargo bays, we're passing in the array, which is up here. So it's just an array of these scriptable objects into our stock shop class. So it takes an array of the scriptable object base, and then anytime we're doing this, the first time through we're destroying what's there, and then we're going to go through and stock the shop. And something I'd like to do is, if you've purchased something from the store or the shop, what we can do is make sure that those objects get removed. I don't know if I want to leave it as, hey, this item was purchased, or if it's a completely remove it from visibility and just show what's available in the store. But this block of code right here is what lets us do that. Alright, so the last big thing that I wanted to cover today was kind of the plans for the future, and then upload schedule that I'm going to try and stick to, as well as a migration to Unity 6. I know there was a lot of controversy with the new versions of Unity, and then the runtime fee and everything else. And since they've done away with the runtime fee, they've changed CEOs, they've changed structure. And I've got so much code written for Unity that I want to stay in the Unity ecosystem. I'm going to go ahead and stick with it and then upgrade to Unity 6 and see what happens. It's looking like it's something that there's features that I'd like to use, and why not? So what I'm going to do here is I've got Unity 6, it looks like 6000.0.32f1. So we are going to just go ahead and change the version. See, we need to close Subby first. We don't need to save. So we'll wait for Unity to close here momentarily. Come on. There we go. So we are changing this version. So now we wait. Alright, so this popped up with a heads up saying it's updating the scripts. So some of the project source files refer to an API that has changed. These can be automatically updated. Well, and since we have a backup of all the code, we can go ahead and do that for anything that's there. And it looks like we've got compilation errors that we're going to need to go in and fix. So let's enter safe mode and get these fixed so we can get rolling. Ooh, there's deprecated packages too. Let's open the package manager. The only thing that's got issues is VS Code. Really? Alright. Yeah, let's just go ahead and remove VS Code from Unity. I've got that installed separately. Okay, so packages look good. Unity's minimized, and we have a bunch of errors. Let's go ahead and clear these. Should narrow in on what we need to do. So is this just an update to TextMesh Pro? Let's take a look. Alright, so it's looking like the problem files are all within the examples and extras within TextMesh Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I don't need all of the extra fluff from the examples and the extras from TextMesh Pro. And now we should be good to go. And there we are. So now that we have that done, looks like there's another TextMesh Pro importer. What happens if we import the examples and extras? I'm just curious if this is going to let things compile. Yep. Okay, so it looks like if anyone is upgrading to Unity 6 from a Unity 5 project, one of the big things you need to do is possibly delete that examples and extra folder, and then just go ahead and import it again. You can also import the essentials. And let's see if we can run. I'm hoping this starts up a little bit faster than it did with the previous version.
2,000 years later.
Alright, so we're running again. Looks like a nice 140 so frames a second. That's a lot more jitter than I would like. Stop the music for the time being. It looks like we're still a little jittery based on how things used to be. I don't know if it's all this extra logging that I've been doing, or that's going to be stuff that I plan on fixing on the live stream, and I will actually jump into the Trello board for it real quick and make some notes here. So we got the frame rate drops when collecting life as a bug. Looks like long loading time for editor is another thing that we need to be aware of. And we can also move when in the life exchange shop. Quick overview of the Trello board. As we can see here, I still have a bunch of these to do. This is all UI stuff. We have software, so save files, the sub upgrade shop, for example. Just need to remove purchase items. So if you actually have enough money to purchase something, you can purchase it. It should save it in your basically in the model for the game as it's running. So that should all be working. I can verify that and make sure. Let's see what we got for the game controller. So some of these I just need to go through and double check and make sure the state's being saved, and we should be good to go. Alright, so that's going to wrap up the devlog 7 for Subby. This has been more of just kind of a catching up and where things are at, and then like I was mentioning, I'm planning on doing a live stream. It's going to be after the new year, but before the 6th. And we can go and actually dig into some of these bugs and just code all day and get some stuff done. So I'm really looking forward to that. But this is kind of current state of where Subby's at, and we're going to jump into it here soon. Until the next one, TJ out.